Are you ready to unlock the potential of cryptocurrency? Welcome to Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club, the premier destination for crypto enthusiasts and investors worldwide. Our mission? To demystify cryptocurrency and create a supportive community where you can learn, network, and grow. Imagine being part of a thriving crypto ecosystem in various cities around the world. In our first year, we're establishing physical hubs in key cities and launching an informative website. You'll have access to exclusive events, expert-led sessions, and a wealth of resources at your fingertips. Year 2 brings expanded educational programs and a mentorship system to pair crypto newbies with seasoned investors. We're not just a club, we're a movement. Our annual crypto conference will put us on the map as a global crypto capital. By year 3, we'll have our own app, a community investment fund, and a thriving ecosystem of crypto opportunities. Imagine being part of a group that's shaping the future of finance. Join us for workshops, seminars, and networking events designed to boost your crypto knowledge and investment potential. From beginners to experts, there's a place for everyone in our vibrant community. Together, we'll navigate the exciting world of digital currencies and blockchain technology. Ready to take control of your financial future and be part of something revolutionary? Experience our exclusive resort in El Salvador, a paradise for crypto enthusiasts. Call or text 941-391-3882 to join our Owners Weekly Call and start your journey with Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club today.
In El Salvador, as some of you know, and he got back very, very late back into Texas, which is freezing. The airport was closed. The man had to drive around in circles looking for hotels. So I'm happy to cover for him today. So lots happening. As you know, in El Salvador, we are buying resorts that'll become a part of the services and amenities available to club members. Very exciting. But at the same time, El Salvador itself is in the news as of last week. They are taking an IMF loan for $1.4 billion. And for that, Bukele, who had taken a pretty rigid stance on Bitcoin being the only accepted currency, is starting to loosen up. It's simply an indication of a market that is starting to mature and starting to take shape. So he's going to make it optional, it seems, at this point, to actually have Bitcoin as a currency, optionally, to the other currencies that will be available. Now, this concession is, of course, contingent on their getting a large fund from the IMF for, developing the country. And the question then becomes, how is it relevant to the Bitcoin ecosystem as El Salvador starts to develop? So I wanted to dwell a little bit into what I see as happening for the development of the country. Now, a couple of weeks ago, he announced that there were $3 trillion worth of gold. And you guys know that gold's been in the news. Gold's been going up from, $29.50, and Goldman Sachs is saying it's going to be about $3,200. So that's an important reserve, and he announced $3 trillion worth of reserves. But you guys got to understand that it's not like El Salvador has $3 trillion worth of gold sitting there in their Fort Knox. It is in the mountains. It is what is called an indicated or an inferred reserve. Now, back when I was looking at mining assets in Chile, I learned a lot about how this process works. And it's kind of important to see that investments are required to develop that asset. So if you have a mountain full of gold, you normally do what is called a 43-101. It's a kind of a report, a 300-page report, which is done with aerial surveillance, diamond drilling, boring in the ground, actually looking at what kind of reserves are available in the ground, what purity, what quantity, and they do what's called an NPV analysis. So the net present value analysis of the ore that's in the ground. So as we talk about this gold in the ground, It starts, so as these analyses come up, there's a cost and time and effort that is put to develop these type of large infrastructure assets. And I think that is one of the reasons why Bukele and his team are starting to say, okay, we have digital gold in Bitcoin, and we need to diversify into more physical gold as well. And I think that's a fairly prudent approach to take. It's going to bring more investments into El Salvador, much like Bitcoin Ben is making investments in El Salvador. And as more investors come in, the economy over there will develop and only strengthen the asset values even more. So I wanted to go into a little bit about the Bitcoin mining ecosystem. So just like you have gold mining and you need equipment and you need surveys done and you need digging to happen and drilling to happen, and then the gold has to be refined and it's got to be put through all sorts of processes. There's a whole complete equation before you see that price of gold, on the screen going up or going down. The same thing is true actually for Bitcoin. And I'm going to cover that a lot more in detail tomorrow on my show, Bitcoin Thursdays with Dr. J. And I'm going to get a very special expert who's going to talk about how Bitcoin mining is done and what the variables are. But it's really important to understand that when you see movements in Bitcoin, it went up to $109,000 in early January. It went down to $95,000 just a couple of weeks ago. So you're starting to see this volatility, and not all of that volatility is supply and demand, but there is a complete ecosystem behind what it takes to convert energy into effectively digital gold. The value of Bitcoin is actually coming from energy. Energy is everything. You're converting energy into a digital asset, which is then being traded, it's being sold, it's being bought. You can buy stuff with it, and it stores value, right? So the whole equation from the ant miners that are being used to the Bitcoin mining capabilities, most importantly, the energy, the cooling systems, the infrastructure that is required, that is going to spawn an entire ecosystem of companies. And that is where my interest really is as the next phase, as the next evolution of Bitcoin investments. Sure, we're all sitting here going, great, we have a limited supply of 21 million coins, 19 million or so are mined right now. Roughly 2 to 3 million are lost because people lost their private key. By the way, there's a funny story I read, not a funny, but an interesting story I read. There's this fellow called, what's his name? James Howell, British fella. And apparently he had thrown out a hard disk in 2013, which had a bunch of Bitcoin on it, which is now worth $800 million. So this guy is trying to figure out how to revive his old hard drive. So for all of you out there with your old computer sitting in your garage, if you have any Bitcoin on it, go back and recover it, because there's quite a lot of private keys that are missing. Anyway, back to the point. We all are anticipating rationally that as the supply of about 17 million Bitcoins, there's a pressure from companies and businesses and governments to get into that space, primarily as a treasury or a reserve. The price of Bitcoin is going to go up and everyone's going to make money. Well, that's at least what the common thesis going around is, and everybody has a different view of how much it'll go up and how quickly it'll go up, and we're not going to take guesses there. But certainly the trajectory is an upward trajectory that we want to keep a close eye on and continue to hodl, continue to accumulate these assets, right? So that's sort of the theory. But there is a much bigger market of investments for businesses, opportunities for governments to invest in, is the production of energy. Because this energy is what is going to drive these AI data centers. This energy is what is going to drive the Bitcoin mining, even for the next many years. And that energy is everything from renewables to nuclear, to natural gas, all sorts of energy is being used to actually feed the digital financial system. And that means there are machines, that means there are equipment, that means there are cooling systems, that means there are whole area of supply chain financing, supply chain economics that is going to be driven by the Bitcoin revolution as fiat currency starts to convert to digital money. As that transformation happens over the years, certainly this idea of a very significant digital ecosystem powered by energy is going to become important. So I wanted to now, so if we kind of take a deep dive on just looking at one company. Again, my interest is not just looking at how Bitcoin is going to make an individual very wealthy, which I think it will, but my interest is also looking at what is the case study, what is the business model for companies to adopt Bitcoin, what is the reason and logic for governments to adopt Bitcoin. What is the reason why those entities that are going to support the entire digital currency market going to be there? So a lot of these conversations are going to be about the ancillary, the adjacent markets, the secondary effects of this digital revolution that is taking place. So I wanted to kind of look at what Michael Saylor has been doing, because he's kind of the first, I would say, corporation that is starting to show a viable model for how Bitcoin is beneficial to a company, right? So let's dig in. What did he do? So MicroStrategy, as you well know, in August 2020, he starts this up with making a purchase of $250 million worth of Bitcoin, about 21,000 Bitcoins at an average price of about $12,000. Fast forward to September 22nd, he raises a whole bunch of money, and we'll get into how he does that. He raises $4 billion at $30 a Bitcoin. He buys another 420,000 Bitcoin. Last week, he purchased, like when the price is right around that $95, $96 range, he purchased another $31,000 worth of Bitcoin. Sorry, 31,000 coins he buys and adds to his position. Now, you all know he's returned almost a 500% return in 2024. And over the 2 years, it's almost a 2,000% return, the number one company. And so I wanted to really find out, what is it that he's doing that is making it viable for him to raise this kind of capital? And what is it that he's doing that, if proven right, can be applied to other businesses? Like if I have a business and I have debt on my balance sheet and I have equity and I have working capital, and how is the introduction of Bitcoin going to actually start changing that equation? And that applies to big companies, it applies to small companies, it applies to entrepreneurship companies, and so on and so forth, right? So what MicroStrategy's core thesis, let's kind of delve into that a little bit. They started using Bitcoin itself as a treasury asset, right? And they started holding this and saying, look, we're going to finance the purchase of these Bitcoins through selling equity and debt, right? So we're going to do that. And once we sell the equity and debt, we're going to actually start to purchase more Bitcoin. And so effectively, it started off very much as a leveraged holding company, where the money that was being raised is actually buying the asset, which is appreciating, is raising the stock value. The stock value going up is bringing more investors in, and the cycle repeats itself, right? So it certainly started to become a very powerful way in which the stock value is reflecting the underlying asset, but it also caused a ton of volatility. So this guy, a smart guy, says, all right, let's figure out how the volatility can itself be used to our advantage. So most people in finance, as you know, think of volatility as something bad. You're going up, you're going down, but there are ways to capture value in volatility. So, for example, he started issuing these options or convertible notes, right? And this convertible note is essentially taking an existing debt and converting into an IOU, right? Into a convertible debt, which has a coupon. And in this case, he made it a 0% coupon. So I buy $10 million worth of debt. I got a 0% coupon, but it has a maturity date. And he gave a 55% premium. Now understand, Bitcoin over the last 4 to 5 years has returned a risk-adjusted return of almost 60%. So what he said was, I'm going to sell you this debt over the next 3 or 5 years, and you're going to pay 0% coupon. You're going to get nothing on the coupon, unlike a T-bill or a bond, but you are going to get, at the end of the period, a 55% premium on the face value of that debt. Brilliant, right? He almost created a proposition, which is a no-lose proposition. If the value goes up, right, and he was able to finance himself at 0% interest, effectively converting his debt into these coupons, 0% coupons, and making his balance sheet look a whole lot better, right? Because he's not paying any interest on the money that he's got. Now, if the price goes up, fantastic. If it doesn't, the folks are going to cash out at a 55% of the original value. So the only bet he's making is that the price of Bitcoin is going to go up that much over the period of the bond, right? And the period is much longer than 1 year, and therefore he has a fairly reduced downside risk. So this is, and by the way, it's, if you bought his stock, the stock is going up with every time Bitcoin goes up, right? So I think it's a pretty smart strategy that he has undertaken. And now the question is going to be, he got the first part of it, but on the downside, on the downstream, how are companies going to be taking advantage of Bitcoin? So let's look at the Florida state government, for example. These guys started to look at, just like El Salvador, where Bitcoin Ben was, just like El Salvador started coming in and talking about becoming a Bitcoin economy. The state of Florida, for example, is taking a position that we as a state need to have exposure to Bitcoin. And what that means is that the Florida state budget, which is several $100 billion, is going to take positions in Bitcoin that it will keep as a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And if the price of Bitcoin goes up, effectively it allows them to refinance their $50 billion of debt that is sitting on the books from all the Hurricane Milton and Hurricane Helene that hit over here. So it's really, really an interesting structure that is we're starting to see take shape and spreading more widely with greater acceptance and greater potential for becoming a real valuable asset. I think it's that just that point of inflection is starting to come where this thing is going to become a real asset. More to be continued in just a moment. Let's see, where does Zoltan go? Zoltan, are you going to put the ad? Okay, he's not there right now. All right, so we'll continue. We were going to take a commercial break for just a moment, but we are not going to do that right now. Now, back to the state governments. So one of the aspects of state government that we are now looking at is how is the acquisition of large amounts of Bitcoin going to affect the supplies. Certainly more Bitcoins have to be mined, but that's on a fairly restricted area. But as the pressure comes in, it's the little guys, the 70% of the people that are holding Bitcoins are going to be the direct beneficiaries. Zoltan, where are you going to put that ad? Yes, please. We'll be right back.
In a world where your data is constantly under attack, one company stands for your digital freedom. Introducing CALIX Solutions, your gateway to ultimate online privacy and secure cryptocurrency trading. Meet the Liberty laptop. With its modified OS and advanced tracking prevention, it's your shield against surveillance. Access restricted areas, use recommended security software, and browse with confidence. Your digital footprint? Virtually non-existent. For the crypto pros, we present the Crypto Laptop. Pre-configured on premium hardware for secure trading. Optimized for your favorite wallets and exchanges, it's the fortress your digital assets deserve. Both laptops come with expert individual training and support. You're never alone in your journey to digital empowerment. At CALIX Solutions, we put you in control. No more worrying about data breaches or compromised transactions. Ready to join the revolution? Visit calixsolutions.io and choose your perfect laptop today. Plus, become an affiliate and earn while sharing the power of digital freedom. CALIX Solutions. Unlock your digital freedom. Give us a call or text at 702-845-8276 or visit us directly at calixsolutions.io.
All right, we're back. Thank you very much for that, Zoltan. So I also want to give you some updates on some of the new shows that'll be coming on this network. Very, very exciting stuff. Tonight at 5 o'clock, there's going to be a show called Women's Voices by Clara Bose, who's my wife, and she's a musician, and she is also learning about Bitcoin. So she's going to take a lot of women who want to get into Bitcoin on a journey with her, interspersed with music, interspersed with things that are important to women. And we're going to get that audience because at the end of the day, Bitcoin Ben's mission and vision is to make sure that the average Joe and Jane learn about Bitcoin. They can get educated. They have a community within which they can talk. And that is something that's going to happen today. So do tune in today at 5 o'clock. From 5 to 6 o'clock, it'll be the Women's Voices show by Clara Bose. And of course, a reminder, I'm going to have my normal show on, it's called Bitcoin Thursdays with Dr. J, tomorrow at 10 a.m. So just giving you a heads up on those two shows that are going to be happening. There are also very exciting things that are going on, at the club over here. We are having a large number of events being planned out, and this is also true for some of our brother and sister clubs out there. We're having events and poker nights. We're getting a comedy night. We're going to be getting a concert, at least one concert a month over here. So it brings the community together. We're also starting to go out to farmers markets and educate and introduce people to Bitcoin so that we can actually get not only more memberships, but also the broader awareness of how the average person can actually jump onto this digital revolution, the new money revolution, and become better financially positioned. So that was just a quick thing about what's happening with the company. But I just want to come back again to Bitcoin being at that point of inflection. There's some really big trends that we are starting to see right now that I think are very different from even a year ago. The first one is the idea of one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. And what that means is that our mindset has to change away from a Bitcoin is worth X number of dollars, or a Bitcoin is worth X amount of gold, or a Bitcoin is worth something else. A Bitcoin is a Bitcoin. It's a thing in itself. It's like a bar of gold, right? This Bitcoin is starting to hold its own value. It has intrinsic value, which has come from investing money into power, into energy, into mining, just like you did for that gold mining. It's no different. So a Bitcoin is just a Bitcoin, and it's real. It's here to stay, and it's on that ledger up in the sky, which no one can now reverse out and change. And that's a really big thing. Now, if you look at what is happening in the federal government. We got Doge cleaning up and every day finding more and more and more, what, lack of a better word, stealing from we the people. The governments do not have the confidence of we the people. For decades and centuries, we have been stolen from. That is what we are realizing. We got people, 3-4 million people who are older than 150 years who are collecting Social Security from your taxpayer dollars and mine. And this kind of complete lack of accountability is something that blockchain technology can certainly start to address. This is the kind of technology that can change the way votes are voted upon. This can change the way governments and transparency is going to work. So the reason I bring that up is that the Bitcoin is not just about a value storing device. It's not just about a currency. The idea of Bitcoin being transparent, being pervasive, having a distributed architecture, having control where the user, the individual has control over his or her money. The government has control over the money that it collects. There's accountability. Bitcoin actually brings with it a significant cultural and policy revolution that is going to be a much larger impact than just Bitcoin as a currency. And once we start to understand the long-term potential that this is directly tied to the constitutional values that we have, that this Bitcoin is not just about money, it's about defining our freedoms, and that it is tied fundamentally to almost every aspect of our lives, starting with energy. And you'll hear me talk more and more about energy till you guys actually start to think about it yourselves, because energy is everything. If you go back and you look at the 80s and the Gulf oil, I was in Dubai in, I think it was 1988. The place looked like, one main street, no buildings. It was a third world city. And yet the power of oil, by the time, it was 2000, 90s and 2000, it's a shining city of gold. So the oil money is creating new cities. The oil, Singapore, same story. It became a beautiful, beautiful city, over a couple of decades because it's the largest seaport in the world, which processes more ships than any other place, right? All kinds of commodities and oil, etc. So the broader economy is going to be defined by the country that is able to produce the lowest cost energy. The country that produces the lowest cost energy, the country which can harness the sun and the wind and the nuclear and the natural gas and all of those aspects, is going to be the country that is actually going to win. So let's look at this. We're going to delve into it a lot more tomorrow, but definitely I want to put this on your radar that energy is going to be a really significant part of this overall equation. What is the cost of mining one Bitcoin? If you don't know that, I want to share with you that tomorrow. We know Bitcoin sells for $98,000. How much does it cost to mine? What is the ROI? What are the different aspects of cost associated with that? Is it profitable to do the mining? Can we get energy at a lower cost in Iowa, for example, than in New York City? What does it mean to have wind and solar farms converting green hydrogen? These are all aspects of Bitcoin. These are all aspects of a broader economy that are going to become really important for the next 100 years. So what we think, does Bitcoin live or die, becomes fundamentally, we got dogs barking here. Okay. Well, welcome to the club. We have a new member. All right. So with that, I'm going to call it a wrap for today. And I'm really looking forward to speaking with you tomorrow more about Bitcoin, business, energy, and the broader economic markets and constitutional and policy ramifications of what Bitcoin really stands for. Thank you very much for tuning in today. God bless you. God bless America. No, it's not playing.
But I noticed before I was looking at this, and I know you can't put. Okay, so that was the Secretary of Energy. I know you can't put that.
Welcome to the future of luxury travel, where cryptocurrency meets paradise. Introducing Bitcoin, Ben all-inclusive beach resort, nestled on the pristine shores of El Salvador. Every room is a gateway to adventure, complete with your personal 4x4 vehicle, scooter, and jet ski. Picture yourself cruising along scenic coastal roads, feeling the thrill of freedom. Glide across crystal clear waters on your private jet ski, embracing the rush of adrenaline. Return to your luxurious suite where comfort meets cutting-edge technology. Indulge in world-class amenities from gourmet dining to rejuvenating spa treatments. Experience the vibrant nightlife with entertainment options that cater to the most discerning tastes. Invest in a resort that's not just keeping up with the times, but defining the future of travel. Join us in creating the ultimate paradise. Contact us at 562-526-0813 and become part of the future of luxury travel.